It's time now for County-Wide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Brad Miller as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives here in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's County-Wide.
Well, good day to you and welcome to the program. It is County-Wide. Brad Miller with you, and we're happy to welcome into studio today talking about a very fun and exciting event that is, well, I was going to say coming to the Verde Valley, but is returning to the Verde Valley. We'll explain that in just a moment. First up, Chip Norton is with Friends of the Verde River Greenway. We say hello to you, sir.
Good morning.
Good to have you here.
Yeah.
Steve Ayers, Economic Development Director of the town of Camp Verde. Hello.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. Guys, it's so good to have you come in studio. We're going to talk about something that will be familiar and new at the same time. A program or an event, I guess. The Verde River Runoff returns to the Verde River in Camp Verde very, very soon, March 23rd. And it is a returning event that went for about a decade or so, and the guys will inform us a bit more on that. And then we'll stop for a year, partnership, I think, with NAU, Chip, you were telling me, and that kind of fell away, but it's back. And we're excited to have that and excited to have our guests come in today and tell us about that. So the Verde River Runoff is returning, Steve.
Yes,
it comes back in just a few weeks.
Yes, it's an event that's been around since 2000, 2001. I'm not quite sure which year it first started. Originally sponsored by NAU's students in their hospitality, is it? Their hospitality program?
Yeah, I think, well, they had a recreation, Parks and Recreation class that
Okay.
Chuck Hammersley, a professor there, led that class. Yeah.
And it's a race, a canoe race, just like it.
It is. It's a 10-mile canoe race. It starts at the White Bridge in Camp Verde and goes downriver for 10 miles to Beasley Flats, and that's the finish. There's a big race clock there, and it's timed, and there are awards. And there are two divisions, though. One's competitive and one's recreational.
Okay.
The competitive division, you have very serious racers that
The East German team flies.
These are the
that.
highly motivated people that are really
Into the
want to get a
competitiveness
good
of it.
time, and they're competitive.
I believe Chip Davis actually won
And
one year.
he did win it one year.
A big
And,
supporter of the river.
But I think the majority of the participants enter the recreational division.
Sure.
And it's more of a social event.
Yeah.
They're racing, but they're laughing. They're just having a good time. They tend not to get to the finish line in 2.5 hours. You know, you might be out there with your headlamp at the end of the day, and they're having a wonderful time, and they don't necessarily pull in a
But what a
timely
great
fashion.
way
It's a wonderful
to
social
enjoy the
event.
river. Yeah, yeah. What you think of canoeing typically as something that's not, you know, paddles on the water, all that, you know, I picture the drum beat and full speed ahead and those kinds of
You won't
kinds of
hear
things,
any
but-
drum beat.
Right, right. You think about canoeing as more of kind of a passive activity where you just kind of take your time and kind of let the river push you along. It's just my vision anyway. And it sounds like folks kind of, even though it's a race, enjoy it, taking it that way.
They do, and you'll see a lot of ridiculous hats and outfits along the way. And it's not just canoes, but it is canoes, kayaks, and inflatable kayaks.
Okay.
And there are actually 16 categories, but there'll be men's solo, women's solo,
Gotcha.
whatever. But anyway, 16 categories that you can enter in. You can do tandem or solo, different kinds of boats. So it's a pretty good mix of. And again, you'll see boats that are made up
Sure.
in a ridiculous manner.
Sure,
That
yeah.
sort of almost like a regatta.
People having fun can become very creative.
They
in
have
the
a
way-
great. They
in
have
the
a
way
great
that
time.
They have a
The
good time.
participants have a great time.
Let me give a couple of pieces of information to our listeners, our viewers. VerdeRiverRunoff.org is the website. Now, can I sign up there for this, or do I need to make a phone call? How do I get? I'm listening to you now. I want to be part of it.
You
How do
can
I do it?
register online by going to that website.
Okay, VerdeRiverRunoff.org. There is a fee for this, but it's going to be a lot more, and Steve's going to talk a little bit about that as well. It's going to it's a day-long thing. Even once the boats are out of the water, it's going to continue. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But VerdeRiverRunoff.org. Now, let me ask you about that Verde River Runoff. To me, I saw that and I thought, runoff, it's a race. But there's a little more to it than that. Is that right?
Well, it's a play on words because one of the reasons that the race is held in the spring is because that's when you get your snow melt and you have adequate water to do a canoe race in the Verde River. And we're not that clever, but we thought it was clever to call the race the Verde River Runoff.
Okay, yeah, okay, it's a little play on
because
words.
and this was originally known as the Verde River Canoe Challenge.
Okay.
But that name, when NAU discontinued their participation, that name was no longer available. So we had to get creative and come up with a new name.
Well, it works. It does. It implies the race. It implies why it's at this time of the year, the snowmelt, the river runoff. Steve, tell me a little bit. You were telling me before the show, if you'd share that with our listeners now, that this is going to be a full day event. After you get out of the water and you want to dry off and towel off and maybe get a bite to eat, you're going to be able to do that.
Yeah, every year in the past, it was simply a race. They would put the boats in at White Bridge, which is where 260 crosses the river, and the race would run down to Beasley Flat, and they would simply get out and you get your award and you'd get in your car and you'd drive home. Well, we're really trying to put more of an emphasis on the river and enjoying the river and community and all and the like. So this year, with the assistance of several partners, we are going to be putting on a downtown event in Camp Verde following this. It'll start at 10 o'clock in the morning, which is the same time the race starts. Go on until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. There'll be music, food, we'll have our award ceremony over there. There'll be some other probably nonprofit vendors there and some just a lot of good time stuff.
Yeah. On
the soccer field, which is behind Town Hall next to Fort Verde in Camp Verde. And so it's an opportunity now to kind of turn it into an event other than just a race.
Right.
And that's the whole intention.
It sounds terrific, and it sounds like it's going to be very inviting and welcoming to spectators as well.
It is, and we're hoping to encourage folks to come down there. It's a celebration of the river as much as it is everything else, and there's a core group of people trying to bring more of a focus on the Verde River and its recreational value, and this is just sort of the tip of that iceberg that's sort of emerging.
When this crossed our desk, you sent a press release last week on this, and I immediately thought, I gave you a call, and you were great enough to be able to kind of put this together a little bit quickly and get in here and talk about this. But that was the seed that I really kind of saw and wanted to talk more about. And we'll break here in a second and come back in our second segment, talk about that. Recreational opportunities on the Verde River. There are plenty of things right now to do. This one, returning, can be a real nice, especially kind of a seasonal kickoff, if you will, coming in March as it does. But there's so much out there, and I just, it's kind of like folks that live in New York don't go to the Statue of Liberty. There's plenty of people who have lived here for years have never fished the Verde River. I've never been in a canoe. I don't know if that's a good idea for me to be in a canoe, but you know what I'm saying? There's a lot here, and I want to talk more about that when we come back. We'll take a break. Our guest today talking about the Verde River Runoff. You can find that at verderiverrunoff.org. Going to be a lot of fun. A boat race coming back to Camp Verde and the Verde River. Chip Norton, Steve Ayers, and we're back to Countywide right after this.
Having a fire escape plan is very important to keep your family safe and together in the event of a fire. When you awake to the sound of a smoke detector and smoke in your room, don't stand straight up. Carefully roll off your bed and stay low under the smoke. If your door is shut, feel the door with the back of your hand. Slowly open the door if no heat is felt. Always stay low until you get to the outside of your home. Always have 2 ways out of your house and a specified meeting place somewhere outside your home. Home escape plans should be drawn up and rehearsed on a regular basis. This could be the difference between life and death if caught in a fire.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
So, I got this new family. And I don't know what it is about this one, but she can't seem to put down that toy all day long. Tap, 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 tap. Oh, and she even talks to it. She talks to that more than she talks to him. What's up, bro? Nice shirt. Who's she talking to? Her mom? She talks to her mom a lot.
Welcome back to the program. Again, it's Countywide, and our guest today, Steve Ayers, Chip Norton, talking about the Verde River Runoff. Go to verderiverrunoff.org. A canoe race returning. It was here in a slightly different form a few years ago for about a decade or so, and is now returning after a short break. Sounds like an awful lot of fun, guys. We have the two of you very well representing this event, but I know it's not just the two of you that have come up with this and are putting it together. Chip, you want to tell me a little bit about some of the folks that are making this happen?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. First of all, the official event organizers are the Verde River Valley Nature Organization, the acronym's VRVNO, if that helps, and the Camp Verde Chamber of Commerce. And they've really been doing the bulk of the work to organize this event. We've been planning it for a year. Additionally, I want to make sure that we give credit to Chuck Hammersley and NAU because they ran a great event, very successful, and it's a great thing to build on. And that event was sponsored by Salt River Project. Okay. And Salt River Project has continued in their role as the primary sponsor, but also the Nature Conservancy has stepped up this year, and they are also a sponsor of the event. So wanted to make sure that we acknowledged their help because without it we could not do the event.
Terrific. Glad to have so many good people become involved or stay involved and nudge this along. When we talk about, before we broke, we said we'd come back and talk a little bit about recreation on the Verde River, and certainly this is a great example of that. There's a lot of chat. We've had recent guests talking about the Verde River and some of the perils that it faces, and it seems like with a call for conservation generally agreed upon that that's a good idea, protection of the river and this source, that recreation is a good way to foster that in new generations. Kids that come to this race who've never been on the river before, or even if they have, it seems to me that all becomes part of the educational process, and having a better understanding of the Verde River will help everybody along in the future to understand why it's important. We were chatting during the break that, sometime way back when, some guy walked up and said, there's a good place to settle, and we're all here, kind of because of that guy or he and his family. And that oversimplifies it maybe, but it's true. Don't we Steve, don't you think we kind of owe a little something to the Verde River, that we're all here to share what it offers to us and enjoy?
Yes, well, absolutely. My previous incarnation, I really spent a lot of time emphasizing and just educating people about this river and letting them know it's there. There is a whole movement now. People are starting to see some signs out there on the landscape directing them to access points on the river. We want people to know how to get there. And the focus needs to be on the local residents here in the valley, beginning to develop an appreciation for it. Once you've gone and bonded with the river, gotten in a boat, floated down it, an inner tube or whatever, you take some ownership in it. And once you've taken some ownership in it, you're going to find yourself like the rest of us saying, this is something that needs to stay, it needs to continue to flow, and we need to work together as a community. So these events such as the Verde River Runoff and some others now, these Verde River Fest events, which is an overarching name that we're applying to several things, including part of probably the birding festival will go under that. We want to eventually put together, Chip can probably talk a little bit more about this, maybe 4 or 5 events during the year to keep a constant focus on the river, and seasonally, so you can see it in the in the springtime when it's flowing, and in the summer and fall, and just really see it as something that is part of your neighborhood.
Chip, I've got friends of the Verde River Greenway, a group that you're very much active with and part of. So obviously, as Steve said, this is a very dear subject to your heart as well, I'm assuming.
Oh, absolutely. It's why I live in Camp Verde. Yeah. My wife and I live on the banks of the Verde River, back a little ways to avoid flood events, but that's why we moved to Camp Verde. it's just the Verde Valley offers so much. But I'm a boater. I've been a boater for many years, and I just love the idea of carrying my kayak down to the river, throwing it in, and there you go.
Yeah, you've got an afternoon or a full
so
day.
I'm a little bit like the person you imagine coming over the hill.
Yeah.
When Kathy and I got here and we saw that there was a place we could live by the river, it was a no-brainer for us.
And every time you go out, you can kind of recapture
Every
a little
morning
bit of that.
we walk down along the river.
Sure.
Every morning.
Something about it. When we talk about these, and you've just, both of you've kind of illustrated interesting things that, you know, you and the missus will go out and kind of enjoy on your personal time, and there's not really a coordinated effort with a group. And then we've got the events that are kind of planned and established, like the Verde River Runoff and other events that are kind of coming up. And it seems like getting a little bit of both is what is really going to kind of foster, as Steve, you said, an investment in the river by those of us, especially those of us who are local to it and live here.
Yeah.
Is that right? Is that kind of the intention of some of these events? Is it kind of that educational aspect
Absolutely. And you, one of the great advocates of the Verde River is a guy named John Parsons. And John was advocating for the river long before many people even knew it existed down there. And John says that all it takes is an opportunity to let the river speak to you, and you'll be forever changed. And he's absolutely correct. And these are opportunities for the river to speak to the community and to our visitors and to everybody alike to realize it's one of the last flowing desert streams in the Southwest.
Yeah.
And it still runs from headwaters to the, well, at least to the first dam down there, but it actually runs all the way to its confluence. And that makes it a very special place.
Yeah.
And so these events are really to broaden that scope, to really broaden its appeal and to do things in which social media and me talking about it and writing about it can never do. You have to be down there and get your feet in the water.
Yeah, literally do so.
I think there's another aspect to it. It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Take the kids,
and
take
it's
grandma.
not just boating, but it's just hiking on greenway trails, bird watching, swimming, fishing. People have done that for years because it's fun,
right?
And they enjoy doing it. It's a matter of letting them know where they can get to the river and what resources are available.
Sure. So. This is simply one way to do that. VerdeRiverRunoff.org. Again, you can sign up there. Do I need my own canoe? Silly question, maybe, but to come and participate in the race, is there?
No. If you want to participate in the race and you do not have your own boat, the Verde River Adventure Center in Camp Verde, they rent boats and gear, life vests, paddles, everything you need for the event. So if you contact them, and there will soon be a link on that website to link you to them, so that if you want to rent some gear from them, you can do that.
I'm getting at first-time folks that are hearing today. I want to go get in the water as soon as I can after our show today. But I was hoping that some folks who aren't outfitted yet and ready to go maybe can participate too. And it sure sounds like they can.
They can,
That's
and
great.
Also the Verde River Adventure Center is a strong partner in the event. Great. They're going to help us with shuttles, and they're very much involved in the event.
When we come back, I'm going to have the guys give up their favorite fishing spots. No? Yeah, no,
I'll tell you Steve's.
Some eye roll. Here's where Steve goes. Okay, well, maybe we won't have that, but we'll come back. We'll talk a little bit more about the Verde River Runoff. But Chip Norton, Steve Ayers, our guest, back after this.
I got no balls for losing. Shocking. Drives it road all the time. Just had a few drinks. Just can't be happening.
Are we clear?
Clear. We just buzzed. Just buzzed. You didn't tell us that, sir. You're right. This isn't happening. He'll be fine. I feel good. Really? No, not really.
Buzz driving.
Clear.
Maybe we should stop acting like it's no big deal.
Shocking.
Body language can tell you all sorts of things. Like someone is having a stroke. Know the sudden signs. Learn fast. Face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty. Time to call 911 and get them to a hospital immediately. Learn the body language and spot a stroke fast.
Fire can happen at any time. What would you try to save?
My family photos.
My grandfather's war memorabilia.
My dogs.
I'm firefighter Brandon Wacker with the Cotton Fire Department. A working smoke detector is your best defense in the event of a fire. Make sure you have a smoke detector in every room except your kitchen. Test them monthly and change the battery once a year. Take the time to save the things you can't replace.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
And welcome back to the program. Fun event coming up on March 23rd. Our guest today, again, Chip Norton and Steve Ayers. The Verde River Runoff comes back. It is a returning. Can we call it a returning event? Are we okay to do that?
We're
It's
okay to
a
do
little different technically, but that, by gosh, it seems like something that was a lot of fun for a long time is returning. The race begins at 10 a.m. From the White Bridge to Beasley Flats. How about spectators? The boaters are going to do what they're going to do and have a good time doing it, but if I'm not ready to do that, but I do want to enjoy the fun, is there finish line place for me to kind of come and set up, maybe take some pictures and enjoy?
There is. Traditionally, that's where most of the spectators would come, you know, in the early afternoon, and they would be there to see their friends or family that are participating, to cheer them on and to be there for that. There's limited parking, but you can also, at the Clear Creek River access points, you can stop there and watch boaters go by.
Okay.
But those are the two public access points.
So there's plenty of room if I want to come and just maybe get a look, and maybe next year I'll
Well, the
get a
great thing
boat.
is we have the search and rescue team working with Arizona State Parks, another great partner in the event, that are parking people at Beasley Flats and kind of restoring order to what would be a pretty chaotic thing if everybody was doing free-for-all parking.
Right.
Another thing, that the way it works is that the participants drop off their boats and check in at White Bridge, and then they drive their vehicles to the finish line at Beasley Flats and park them, and a shuttle brings them back to the start. That way they have their vehicles at the finish line.
Okay.
And then at the end of the event, they drive back to Camp Verde, and there's an awards ceremony, which Steve knows quite a bit about in town.
Let's talk about that again. We kind of did at the top of the show, but let's, in our final minutes, Steve, kind of talk again that this is going to be really an afternoon-long event.
It is.
After the race itself.
So the race, most of the boaters will be off the water sometime around noon, 1 o'clock, and back up there. Folks, there will be an event starting at 10 o'clock. There'll be music down there. There'll be lots of stuff, lots of activities going on the soccer field there adjacent to Fort Verde, which is on Holloman Street in Maine. There will, and that will continue as the boaters drift back in and all their friends. And so we'll have an awards ceremony probably around 3 o'clock, I think is what we determined.
Great.
On the stage there, and music will play until
6 p.m.
Till 6 p.m. I think is the music will continue. So yeah, come on out and have some fun and just enjoy a nice day. I'm sure March 23rd is typically excellent weather.
Probably going to be beautiful.
We fully expect it to be an absolutely beautiful day, and
even more
come and enjoy.
Even more so when you can enjoy it from the river, or perhaps standing alongside cheering on your favorite team of canoers and rafters. Guys, thanks so much. Good to have you come in and share this with us. Sounds like an awful lot of fun and a great way to learn more about the Verde River. The Verde River Runoff, verderiverrunoff.org. Online, you can sign up there or find out more about this event. Returns on March 23rd. Steve Ayers, Chip Norton, our guest today. It's countywide, and we'll see you next time.
This has been Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Listen in each Tuesday and Thursday as we tackle the hot topics and talk to the decision makers across Yavapai County. That's Countywide with Brad Miller and Paul David each Tuesday and Thursday on this Yavapai Broadcasting station.